Australian enthusiasts, my name is Candice and I have got some exciting tips for you today. This is for people who might be wanting to travel to Australia or might just be wondering what it's like to drive a car in Australia. If you're brand new to my channel, I do a lot of videos about Australia and also tutorials on how to speak with an Australian accent or dialect. But today I'm going to focus on what it's like to drive a car. Driving cars are a bit of fun. So if you're brand new, please hit that subscribe button and also ring the bell. If you've subscribed and you haven't rung the bell, just do it now. Give it a little ring-a-ding-ding because then you'll be notified every time I put out some new content. And if you like this video at the end, give me a thumbs up. It always helps me out because YouTube will promote my video to other viewers. So let's get right on into this. Driving in Australia. The first thing to mention is the legal driving age. Now this differs from state to state. In some states it's as young as 16 and in other states it's 18 years old. So depending on where you're traveling to, maybe look that up. But when you do get your license, you start off with a learner's permit and then you move on to a provisional license and then you get your full license. So when you're on your learner's or your provisional license, you have to put a little sign with either an L or a P on it to let all the other drivers know that you are not a fully licensed driver. The reason for that really is to give them a warning, but also hopefully the other drivers will be a little bit more patient, knowing that this is someone who is learning to drive a car. Number 2, speed limits. The speed limits in Australia range from 5 kilometres to 120 kilometres, apart from in the Northern Territory where you'll get a couple of highways or freeways that go up to 130 k's per hour. If you're driving in the cities or in residential areas, usually the speed limit will be between 50 and 60 kilometres per hour, depending on where you are. But generally in the cities, you're looking at 50 k's. So not that fast. And that brings me to number 3, which is, for the love of God, don't speed. There are speed cameras everywhere. There are speed cameras in cop cars and they'll sit on the side of the road trying to catch people speeding. There'll be speed cameras on traffic lights. There'll be speed cameras anywhere you can imagine, and the speeding fines are expensive. I looked it up because I've never had a speeding fine. Because I drive like a grandma. Oh, is the car coming? The cost of the speeding fines varies from state to state, but to give you an example, in Victoria, if you're going just 10 kilometres over the speed limit, you're going to get a fine of $207. And if you're going 10 to 24 kilometres over the speed limit, you're going to get a fine of $330. If you drive, you know how easily you can just nudge over that speed. So pay really close attention, because if you're on holiday, you don't want to have to spend your hard saved money on speeding fines. Tip number 4 is a bit specific for Americans, I think, because I was really surprised when I came to Los Angeles for the first time and found out that you could turn a corner if the traffic light is red. You can't do that in Australia. There is no turn on a red traffic signal. So if you're waiting at the traffic lights and your light goes red, if you are able to turn, you will have a green arrow that tells you you're allowed to turn. So anywhere you're going to go at a traffic light in Australia, you will always have a green signal telling you it's time for you to go. You'll have green for going straight ahead, you'll have green for turning the corner, either way. So keep an eye out for that green light. Don't turn if it's red. Red means stop. Now, if red means stop, clearly green means go. So number 5, if you are a pedestrian and you are walking, you will have a green man to walk on a crosswalk. That's again different to the US. I was very surprised when I got here, and the little man in the traffic light that tells you you can cross the road, he's white. is like a fluorescent white. I always say green means go, and whoever I was with at the time wondered what I was talking about. Number 6. We don't use stop signs in Australia as frequently as other countries, specifically as frequently as the United States. We don't have 4-way stop signs. At least I've never seen any in my years driving in Australia. What we use instead is roundabouts.
Roundabout here, roundabout there, roundabout, 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 roundabout.
Roundabouts are very convenient purely because you don't have to stop. It's just give way. So if there's no one coming, then you can just cruise on through. So if there's a stop sign, it will only be a one-way stop. So if you're brand new to driving in Australia and you reach a stop sign, just know that any oncoming traffic from the other direction won't be stopping. You're the one who has the stop sign, so you have to wait until it's clear. Number 7 might be a bit of a confusing one. Because Australia is such a big country, we have a lot of country roads. And often on a country road, rather than having a solid line down the center that divides the 2 lanes going each way, there will often be a broken white line. So what this means is that as you're driving, if you come up behind a slow car, because it's just a single lane, if you come up behind a slow car, if there's no one coming from the other way, you can go onto the other side of the road to overtake. It does not signify that it is a one-way road. It is still 2 ways. The broken white line just means that you're allowed to overtake if it's safe. Be careful and make sure you're driving on the left. Oh, I didn't even mention that. Drive on the left-hand side of the road in Australia. Left. Left. Do you know what I do? I've lived here for so many years, but if I'm talking about Australia, if I'm thinking about being in my mum's house, I often will really have to think hard when I get in the car which side of the road I need to be on. The answer, if you're driving in Australia, is the left-hand side. Number 8 is to do with filling up with petrol. We do call it petrol and not gas. When you fill up in Australia, generally you don't have to pay first. You just pick up the nozzle, fill up your car, and then you go inside to pay. Number 9 is specifically for people who are visiting Australia who might like to drive, and that is the age you need to be to rent a car. And the answer is 21. However, if you are younger than 25, you might have to pay for an additional insurance. So just be aware of that in your budgeting. If you're younger than 25, you might need to pay a little bit extra. And there might also be a limit depending on who you're renting from. You might not be able to rent certain types of cars, for example, sports cars or vans, like an 8-seater or a 12-seater van. So keep that in mind. Hopefully you've got someone over 25 to drive those vehicles for you. Make sure everyone has a license. And number 10, this sounds so cliche Australian, but it is a real thing. If you are driving on country roads, you have to be careful and look out for kangaroos. The reason is because it's a bit like deer, I think, if you're from a place that also has deer. They jump out in front of the car, and kangaroos can be quite big. So if you don't have a rhubarb on the front of the vehicle, that specifically is there to protect you and your car if you hit a kangaroo. Unfortunately, the kangaroo probably will be a bit damaged if it gets hit with a rhubarb, but this is really important, specifically if you're driving at dusk or dawn. If you're doing like an overnight drive, or if you're driving and the sun's going down, the headlights on the car cast a lot of shadows at that time of day. So what will happen is that a kangaroo will see their own shadow, get spooked, and then jump out in front of your car. Oh. Really be careful. Maybe slow it down a bit if you're driving at that time of day, and try not to hit any kangaroos. You'll see a lot of them on the side of the road. That's a bit of a morbid way to end this video, but there you have it. Talking about kangaroos. I hope this has helped you. If you are planning a trip to Australia, let me know in the comments. I love hearing about people visiting my home country because I love it a lot and it's always really exciting to talk about. We may not be travelling at the moment, but if you plan to in the future, or if you really want to go, or if you have any other questions about visiting Australia, drop me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and hit subscribe and ring the bell. I'll see you next time. Bye!